And welcome back to another episode. Well, technically one of the last episodes of the SESH program, as this is going to be discontinuing in the next week or so. But do not fear, because we're going to carry it with full force to the conclusion. I am your host and friend Skip Marazzi, here with Aaron Cosbeil, the professor of comedy, and with our special guest Jerry Jaffe. I really hope I pronounced your name right. Geez, that's something I should have cleared up in the green room.
I was just thinking that. You did not pronounce it.
That is not correct. All right. It's spelled Jaffe, right? Is that correct?
It is.
Okay, but how do you pronounce that then?
Well, first of all, the last name is pronounced Jaffe.
Jaffe, okay. Gotcha. That would make more sense. Okay.
But even better than that is that you called me Jeffrey.
Oh, my God.
And you get the prize for being the 1,000,000th person to call me Jeffrey.
Jeez,
and the fact that I have that...
oh, my God. Jerry. God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I totally rolled. Because your last name, right? I'm sure everybody does it because your last name. Like, they're like, it's got double F's. Of course his name's Jeff.
You got it. You got it.
Wow. Your parents could have done you a favor and called you Jerry Jaffe. And
yeah.
it would have sounded goofy, but everybody would have gotten your name right.
Then everybody would have called me Jerry, so it would have never worked out.
That
never worked out.
Maybe that would have been the case. I am wholly embarrassed, especially since I go by Skip, and I prefer when people call me by that name than any other name. And I got your government name wrong. So Jerry Jaffe is here, just so for sake of clarity. He is here because he's written a book that I'm interested in talking about, and the other ideas that are surrounding that. A book with a title that I'm not even going to attempt to say, because if I can't get your name right, I have a feeling I won't get the title right either. But it's the one that was on your profile picture. I don't know, maybe you're multiple authors of multiple books. But what is the name of that book?
Yes, shall I? Thank you. And to let you off hook a little bit on this one, I actually pulled a copy of my book off the bookshelf so I could read the title correctly myself.
There's a lot of words in the title of that book. And obviously it's good because I saw the title of the book. I was like, I know what's inside that book. I judged the book by its cover because, Jerry, you did a great job of naming it. So,
Thank you. The title of the book is Religious Satire in the Era of New Atheism. Do you seriously believe that after 9/11?
Okay, so that title, obviously there is so much to unpack, and we're going to do that on this episode as well. But that was kind of like the hook for me, because I was like, that's interesting. You don't see that every day. It's got a lot to say. But before we get into all that, let's just talk about you briefly, so people kind of know where you're coming from before we get into your ideas. You were in town recently, and you're a friend of Aaron Cosbeil's, but it sounds like you don't live in Maumee regularly. Are you I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio. Okay.
But I currently live in the Cleveland area.
Gotcha. And how long have you been in Cleveland?
18 years.
Okay, so that's okay. So you're a resident of Cleveland now.
A year or two ago, it dawned on me that I may, in fact, be a resident of Cleveland.
when did you pass
neither the plan. Yes. And this is how it turned out to be.
Yeah, right. That's funny how life works, right? Like you're like all of a sudden it catches up with you, and you're like, oh wait, nope, this is me now.
Yes.
So what brought you to Cleveland?
I've traveled a lot, and that's part of the facetiousness of the many years in Cleveland is from like age 18 until this epiphany, I've never lived in one area more than 4 to 6 years, say. Okay. So I was not to country name drop, but I was living in New Zealand. Okay. I
see why you say country name drop, because I'm sure that was really, really pretty.
It was beautiful, and we could spend 90 minutes talking about it, and I would be happy to spend 90 minutes talking about it. And we might have to have you back on to talk about New Zealand. Yeah, absolutely. I would love it. But yeah, okay, gotcha. So
So you were living in New Zealand?
Yeah. Yeah, teaching at a university there and doing theater. I'm a theater kid, so
cool.
Directing, acting, academics.
That's fun. Okay.
Very fun. And then I took this job in the greater Cleveland area. And when I took that job, it was a way to get back to Ohio after so many years abroad. And I just thought, well, we'll see. If I don't like this job, in a couple of years, I'll move again. Right?
You must
so
like
it really
the job.
did sneak up on me. Well, I wouldn't say that, my friend.
Oh, no. Okay. I hope nobody you're working with or for hears that. Unless they... sorry.
Yeah. No, I actually stopped working after 18 years at that same college.
Okay.
I stopped working there in May. So.
Okay. Gotcha. So you did... Wow.
I'll speak with impudence about that institution.
Okay. And we don't need to disparage anybody necessarily. But
Indeed.
Okay, but you still stayed there for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they must have some things. Were you teaching there also? You said theater and that sort of stuff.
Yep, teaching theater, acting classes, community theater as well. Occasional professional or local professional gigs, but mostly at this point in my career, college theater. And what I would say is, and we used to joke about this, is that job was technically my dream job. It was just the worst iteration of my dream job imaginable, but it was still technically my dream job.
Interesting. People think that if you achieve your dream job, that you're set after that. I guess. So I'm in my 40s, and that's I find it odd that I've never conceived of that before. Like it's never occurred to me that I was like, you could get the worst version of your dream job, because it sounds like a dream. I mean, that sounds really. What was it that you were like? What was it that it was lacking that you really wanted from it?
Well, I will answer that, but just to be a little bit fair, I love both teaching and I love theater and I love mentoring young artists.
There you go.
And I love where I live.
Okay.
So there were many things that I did enjoy about the job. It wasn't torture.
Okay.
I might have stayed there longer than I should have. But
Gotcha.
be that as it may, the downsides included some institutional problems, which I won't bore you with.
Of course, bureaucracy is always a burden in any organization, right?
Yeah.
It
was a very, very, very. Aaron, throw in a couple more varies for me.
Very.
What I do.
Very.
Yeah, I mean, my salary at the end was $20,000 below the national average, and for the state of Ohio, I was in the bottom 2 percentile for my job.
Wow.
So that's how.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you're working your dream job, and they're like, but you don't make any money at this job. You're like, I could have been in New York as an actor if this is how it was gonna be, right? Like if I was gonna be this poor the whole time.
Correct.
Fair enough. But you did get to mentor people, and you got to train up actors. You get to act and write, obviously.
Yes.
So you had that going. Okay, I gotcha. Interesting payoffs. Okay, all right, cool. So should we call you Professor Jaffe? Do you have a doctorate that we should be respecting?
I do have a doctorate. You're under no obligation to respect it. My last place of employment didn't.
Oh really? Oh jeez. I'm sorry.
But
you're like, I'm literally a doctor, and they're like, yeah, I can't help you at all with that. Yeah.
No.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, but because I've known Aaron, I mean, I've probably known Aaron for almost as long as I've been back in the States. So 10 to 15 years minimum.
Wow.
And we all know what his brand is.
Very clean comedy. He's the professor of comedy. If you guys don't know,
professor
we're listening.
Of comedy.
Yeah.
Yes, the professor of comedy, Aaron Cosbiel. And this actually became a thing when we would be on shows together because I wanted to respect both him and his brand. So he's the professor of comedy, but it impinged on my ability to introduce myself.
As you are an actual professor. As an actual professor who's doing comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that as being a difficulty.
I'll tell you a quick funny anecdote.
I would love to hear it.
First got to Cleveland, so I dabbled in stand-up as a college student and got away from it. And then when I moved to Cleveland, I was in my 40s, and I wanted to get back into stand-up.
Okay.
And so that's sort of, I really committed myself to doing stand-up about 15 plus years ago.
Gotcha.
And there used to be this social media website that was just for Cleveland comedians. And people could like put up their bios and their avails and whatever they wanted, taglines and things. And so I had this like tagline for myself, which was the world's most highly educated stand-up comedian.
Okay.
Which I still use sometimes, depending on the show or what I'm, introducing myself as.
Right, fair.
But back then, no one knew me, which means I didn't know my sense of humor or my background. And so there were a couple of local comedians who I would now count amongst my best friends, but they didn't know me then, who were offended. But I would dare suggest
that you were the most educated, I think. That doesn't necessarily mean intelligence. That's not a statement you're making. You just say you've got a lot of education.
But they took it as I was like lording my education over them.
Oh, well, yeah, because most stand-up comics, not to disparage stand-up comics, but a majority of them do not come from professional backgrounds, and they are just that's where they thought they were funny. They got on stage and started using a mic, and from there they started writing a bunch of jokes. I know a bunch of stand-ups. That's their background story. So
I accidentally insulted. We actually had to have a sit down.
Really?
Where I was asked to explain myself. And I said, is anyone else in this room a comedian? If you might need to have your sense of humor checked.
Right. Also, does anyone else in this room have a doctorate? Not that I'm trying to lord that over you guys, but I'm just saying, I may have a little bit more education than you. I can also show you my college bill that still due, right? So, yeah, I mean... it's good that they were willing to talk with you and didn't just see that as an affront and decide to just cut you out of shows.
Right. No, and it totally became almost like an airing of the grievances, like a Festivus miracle.
We should have had Festivus at least once a year.
Yes, and so it became almost the foundation of future friendships, because we sort of talked it out and bonded over it.
And this is why we need instances of Festivus, because when you sit down and be like, look, I think you're being an ass, and someone goes either yes, I am being an ass, or no, I'm not being an ass. Now you have an understanding of the situation a little bit better. So fair. So you're still doing stand-up now?
I am. I'm a little older than you and Aaron. I'm in my 50s.
Okay.
And I found coming out of COVID that I have lessened the amount of stand-up I do to really only do gigs I want to do. And it's not that I wouldn't do more, because if a gig comes along or someone invites me to do a show. But yeah, I could do a little more, but I'm not, I've aged out of being ambitious about it.
That's understandable, right? Probably the bug, whatever it is, you're getting dissatisfaction out of it is still there, regardless of how often you're going, because you've done it so often. I definitely understand that. As an improviser, I was like, when I was first doing it, I was like, I gotta improvise all the time, and then it was more, I was like, you know what, it's good. I want to do the things I enjoy with the people I enjoy. So
there was a booker in just this past year, like in 2025, and I knew from pre-COVID days who used to book me as a feature. I mostly, if I'm in a club, I'm usually featuring.
Okay, nice. You're well known, right?
Oh, I mean, in my area, I am, yeah. And so, I was telling Aaron today, there's probably 5 clubs in my area that have booked me or occasionally booked me, some more than others. I'm known in certain small circles. But so this one booker hadn't booked me since COVID, and a friend who's another local pro said, go down and do his open mic and just remind him that you exist and let him know that you're open.
That's great advice. Yeah, that's great advice.
Right. So I did. It was like a 75-minute drive, and this gets to my lack of ambition. Like, do I really want to drive 75 minutes, 5 minutes an open mic, because I might get a gig down the road.
Right. Yeah, in the Midwest, even that's a longish drive. Yeah.
But I did it, and again, I also know him, and the booker's a nice person, so there's no ill will there. It was just sort of we fell out of touch because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I'm on this show. It's mostly open micers. It was a fun show, people trying, a couple of first-timer ever. All that's fine. What I wanted to tell you and Aaron and anyone listening is, the host was a young adult who I had never met and who I did not know. There were people there I knew. I did not know the host. And he brought me up on stage as the legend Jerry Jaffe. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow.
I don't know who you are. Why would you introduce me that way? And again, you think he meant it nice. Like,
right.
Local pro that everybody knows and's been. But whenever you hear the word legend, what artists always say is, "Oh, you're calling me old."
Oh, interesting. I guess I've never been called a legend to mark myself. That's possible. Yeah, I wouldn't. That's weird. I wouldn't have heard that. But okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah. It was funny to me how off-putting it was.
Huh. The same as the most educated person to other people, I imagine. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. He meant it nicely, I assume, because he was not. I don't know, but whatever it was. So. I've lived long enough to become a legend in at least one person's mind.
That's awesome. And it might be this young comic probably saw you somewhere, right? And like he was like wowed by you, and then he just wanted to give you the props that he felt you deserved. It might be a generational thing too. The word legend.
Sure.
Because I do think in a more modern vocabulary, I think that it doesn't have that same the Arthurian legend context to it,
right?
And more like LeBron James is a legend in his own time,
right?
So okay, that's if you want to talk about words in LeBron James, one of the most overused phrases of the youth these days, I believe, is the expression "goat." Because how can everybody be the GOAT? If you're talking about the greatest of all time, like how I don't know how you could possibly have any perspective on that.
For all of time.
Right. Are you talking about the future also? Because that's a long stretch. Also, I mean, if you consider what we know about time in the past, that's also a very long stretch. And we've had gladiators. We've had Alexander the Great existed. There have been.
Was he the greatest of all time?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you returned a shopping cart. I don't think that makes you a GOAT. In comparison to some of the all-time heroes that we may have had.
This really fine Himalayan goat from 200 AD that was just up in the Himalayas being this beautiful golden-haired goat.
That's the goat right there.
That goat.
Yeah, of all time, are you considering that goat the silken-haired golden goat? I don't think you are. So.
No, but that guy dunks good. So.
Yeah, some guy. Yeah. Have you ever seen a goat dunk? Because I'm sure LeBron James could dunk on a goat. So that's awesome. What originally got you into stand-up? Being a theater kid, I guess, wanting the stage time, that's kind of part of the trek for a lot of people.
Well, as I was a college student, and I did open mics and a couple of comedy contests back in the late 80s. And it was fun, and it was like stage time and creative writing also, but also as a sort of a teenager in the 80s, that was early cable television. And there would be a lot of comedy on cable TV. Like as a kid, even in the 70s, I would watch Johnny Carson and then Letterman in the 80s and see comedians. But on top of that, there was just a lot of comedy programming in the 80s on cable channels. Yeah,
well, it was cheap cable, right? Like you're one camera running or 3 cameras running maybe on one guy on a mic. Like that's not a whole lot of production, and you can fill an hour slot. Yeah.
Yeah, you could film a showcase and have like 6 weeks of television.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's really cool. I can see how that would be the case.
I wanted to try it.
Actually,
I had a good bridge into it because I was living in Boston at the time.
Oh, cool.
And this would have been like around 88, 89. And I joined this summer theater, repertoire theater, where we did different plays every week. But at that group, they wanted to also have, that theater wanted to have a sketch comedy group.
Okay, cool.
And so I did that. At the sketch comedy group, when we started meeting, there were people in the group who wanted to try stand-up because it was the late 80s in Boston and everybody wanted to try stand-up.
Right, of course.
So that was the first time I did stand-up, was as part of that sketch comedy troupe.
Wow,
and it was a good, easy ramp into it.
Right. Wow, yeah, because I mean, there's not a established scene at that time, but I'm just thinking how cool it is, Boston in the '80s, the stand-up scene, in the '80s as it's developing. Wow, that is a nice little ramp into it. Super fun, and now you've been doing it for a while. But stand-up isn't the only writing you do, obviously, because you have this book. Do you have other works besides the one that we're going to talk about here coming up here pretty short?
Well, I do a variety of writing, both academic, sort of nonfiction,
Okay.
which this book is.
Gotcha.
And then I do my writing for stand-up. But I've also written plays, and I write a Substack for fiction, and I have a one-person show. That the one-person show is all religious satire. It's a 75-minute show
Wow.
of all religious satire, so it correlates to the book.
Got
like a bigger project.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I do other types of writing too. Yeah, I blog a couple of places, but we all do that. I have a podcast as well, so
that is
things I'm doing. Yeah.
that's awesome. If you had to for yourself nail down like one, say like driving force or like something you say is like a defining characteristic of your life, what would you say that is? It sounds like you have kind of a mixed bag. I mean, you've been a professor, you do stand up, you're doing writing, you have traveled a lot in your life.
Yeah, that's great.
I know it's a big question.
Yeah, no, I mean I've tried to wiggle around and not be just like one thing a little bit.
That's good. Yeah.
I had a teacher of mine in college asking me about like what I wanted to do with my life, and then after like a rambling answer, he went, "So you're a Renaissance man."
Okay.
Yeah, I know. But I would say I'm a theater kid.
Okay.
I love acting and I love directing, and they're different art forms, so they do different glands get stimulated when I do those two things.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, to direct you have to understand the acting, but you don't get to do it obviously, right? Because you also need to look at the big picture, how it all works together, get all the pieces there where they need to be.
I mean, I've been in a few plays that I've directed, but it's definitely like a little bit of a mind fuck because you can't watch yourself when you're in your own scene.
I hate it so much when I'm directing and acting because I'm like I need that outside eye, man. Like I feel everything when I'm in the character. Like I have no objective point of view at that point.
Yeah. I think I'm a good actor, but I think I'm a better director. Like if it's about like what am my calling? I think I have directing is what I really feel most strongly about.
Okay, that's fair, and I can see that like being as a teacher, as a professor. And you said that one of the things you really enjoy is mentoring people too. So being a director is kind of like part of that, like getting the voices to do the thing that they need to do, like getting them to deliver, right? That performance out of your actors. Right on. Okay. All right. Thank you I know that's a difficult one, especially for all of us who, live our own lives and we don't get to observe ourselves. But yeah, just that idea, I was hoping to give, as we move into the next portion of this conversation, just like where you're kind of coming from it as, and I can see, so you're like the big eye, right? Like that's a position in society as the one who stands and watches and kind of like directs, to move the pieces, right? That's awesome. All right. All right, so let's dive into it, shall we? For this book, because I feel like there's probably a lot to it. So, religious satire, new atheism, and in the post 9/11 world. What drives you to write this book? Obviously, you said you have a series of shows or a series of a 75-minute set about religious satire. What are the roots of that? Like.
Sure. I mean, I think I'm just the right age. You gentlemen are a little younger than me, but you might feel kind of just similar as a generalization. That as post September 11th, I was around the age of 30. I was in like 30, 31.
Gotcha.
32 maybe. Anyway, around that age. And so, like a lot of people, it was very upsetting.
Yeah.
And I'm not very religious, but I would, if I was like joking around with comedians or friends, I might not use the word atheist. a young Jerry, like age 15 to 25, I might have said agnostic, or I might have said even something like seeking, like a seeker. Like, I want to learn about religion and see what different spiritual ideas have to offer.
Okay.
By the time I'm 30 something, I probably am calling myself an atheist, but the phenomenon of new atheism hasn't happened yet. So it's a little bit more of a generic word. It might still be loaded in certain corners, but you could kind of call yourself an atheist, actually, and it just sort of didn't have much impact in the same way that it might
today.
After new atheism.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
because after in the era of new atheism,
with
you're
about to define it. Okay.
Dawkins, so if you say you're an atheist, you're like aligning yourself with these specific writers.
Oh. Interesting. Okay, so it's not just the belief that there is no God, which is the definition of atheism based off the word.
Right.
You're saying now that you're aligning with a group of people who have had a series of thoughts on the topic of atheism. Okay.
In the late 2000s, yes. In the year 2025, it probably watered down a little bit. I don't know that people associate the word atheist in a hardcore way with the phrase new atheism or those authors. But in the 2000s, there definitely was a movement, a ripple through culture that these writers were making. And it was overtly a reaction to September 11th. It was like, you see where religious extremism gets you? So,
interesting. Okay, because of the group that was making the attack, like because it was jihadists.
Yes.
They were flying the plane. They're like, you should be careful of religion because it can drive you to such extremes. That's kind of the idea. Correct. Is that what you're getting at? Okay, I got you. All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say too that's what they were getting at, but yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm not saying that was your. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't saying that was your opinion, but that was kind of like where that thought was coming from. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. And so, if you were reading, which I've read all of these books, and I would even say I have a lot of sympathy. Like, I still would call myself an atheist today, or a non-believer. But at the time, let me say this. I'm stammering for a second because I'm trying to avoid using the phrase new atheism, and there's a reason why I'm trying to avoid using it, even though it's in the title of my book.
Right.
Book titles are clickbait. I'm just trying to get you to...
Absolutely. It worked. It absolutely worked. You did a great job.
But those writers, like Dawkins and Hitchens and Sam Harris and others, they never, ever called themselves new atheists.
Right. Actually, the title of your book was the first time I'd heard those words together. I believe that. I mean, it's probably more of an academic term, right, to differentiate the eras of the atheism. But they didn't think of themselves as that.
No. Like different waves of atheism.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit. Yeah. But what happened was all of the three men and a couple other writers too, but those three men especially had a series of books on the New York Times bestseller lists, and a journalist aggregated these books and said, what is going on in the mid-2000s with all these writers about atheism all popping up?
Interesting.
And there's a specific journalist who wrote an article saying new atheists have arrived.
Okay, gotcha. So that the one who wrote that article was the one who made that definition.
Correct.
Because it was markedly different. Obviously, it was in response to the religious extremism that they saw at 9/11. Okay.
Yep.
And in what way did they differentiate from your garden variety atheist?
I think that, and I think this would be true in 2025. And we should, as an academic in me, is careful about making generalizations.
I'm glad.
But I think your garden variety atheist is not actually all that confrontational. Your garden variety atheist, is living their life, minding their own business.
Right, because
just religion.
Yeah, a non-belief isn't really something to act on generally, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. It's not driving you to do anything. It's just
So when you have that stereotypical image that some people have of like this bulldog, aggressive atheist, and those people exist out there. I'm not saying that they don't.
For sure.
But the majority of atheists are not like that. So I had my own phrase for a while, which is which was apatheist.
Right. It might be something that might not. I mean,
I just don't care.
Right. Like who? Yeah. Like that's not a conversation I'm interested in having. Fair.
And
fair.
when I was in graduate school in the 90s, I coined a phrase to be off-putting, like to just catch people off guard. If people started talking about religion around me, and eventually someone, again, just say, hey, Jerry, like, your family's Jewish, or what do you do, or what do you believe in? And I would say, I'm an Aristotelian nihilist.
Okay.
And then my favorite thing is when people would ask me what that would mean, because I would just start making stuff up.
Right. Aristotle's the basis of logic, and nihilist says that there's nothing, that we can't, as long as we don't see it, we can't talk about it. Okay.
I wouldn't have been, 22-year-old Jerry would never have said this, but in retrospect, it's almost like Andy Kaufman performance art. Like I'm just daring you to ask me.
I'm fucking with you. Yeah, I'm fucking with you. Yeah. That's fun, right? Because you're like, your ideas seem silly to me, and they get, for some reason, they get you riled up when you talk about them. So for me, it's entertaining to watch you get riled up. I don't know if that's but I could see that being his stance.
It was that direction. But,
I mean, that was Andy Kaufman's thing. Yeah. He didn't care what his reaction was. He was getting as long as he got one.
Which was brilliant when he did it, and annoying when open micers do it.
Well, it was annoying when he did it too. Apparently, Robin Williams hated Andy Kaufman. Yeah, he worked with him frequently. He was part of one of his live shows at one point where he played Andy Kaufman's mom. But right. But yeah, no. If you see any interviews that Robin has done about Andy Kaufman, like he's like, well, he just sat there. He would just torture people. That was his form of entertainment, and it was funny to Andy, but it wasn't funny. It wasn't, it's not good comedy. But that's a debate in itself, and and that's why I think it doesn't land. Like people when they try to do the Andy Kaufman bit, they just can't do it because they're, it's not the same reaction.
Yeah, it's a different era, but.
Sure, but
if you imagine the mid-2000s, and there's this genre of nonfiction called New Atheism with the writers we've already mentioned, like Hitchens and Dawkins and others. What I noticed, and I'm reading them and basically more or less enjoying and largely agreeing with them.
Good.
But I'm also a comedy fan, and then doing comedy. By 2010, I'm doing comedy again myself. And I had this kind of like epiphany light bulb moment where I just started to notice that if you listen to many religious satirists from the same era, in the decade after September 11th, they talk about a lot of the same things. And that was light bulb moment is what led eventually to this book. Okay.
So now let me see if I understand that term. So a religious satirist is someone who is just lampooning religion, or they're like pretending to be the religion as to point out like why it's amusing. Is that kind of what that is, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, so you're asking the right question. I wish I had more students like you in class.
Okay.
The thing which is a little bit tricky is you take a class or you deal with an academic know-it-all like myself. We sometimes get preoccupied with definitions, right? And a lot of 100-level gen ed classes are nothing but definitions.
Right, just
100 new words.
Right, just to get yourself ready for the conversation, right?
Yeah, so chapter 2 of this book is me attempting to define satire.
Okay.
And I go through different ways that people in the past have tried to define it. However, I want to... do you know kind of famous comedian Paul Provenza?
Wow, that one slipped by me. Maybe I know his face, but no, I don't think I do.
Well, Paul Provenza had an early podcast that actually got turned into a series on Showtime called The Green Room, actually.
Okay, I do know the Green Room.
Yeah, like it's a Showtime show. I think they did like 2 6-episode seasons or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Paul Provenza in comedy circles, and I've never met him, so I'm speaking sort of reputation-wise and friends who know him as well, is kind of like the unofficial historian of modern comedy. Like, he is a documenter and an interviewer, and he's and he wrote a book on satire.
Oh, it's the. Okay, gotcha.
Satiristas.
Satiristas. I was trying to sound it out while having a conversation with you, and those weren't working at the same time. So thank you for pronouncing.
I'm here to help.
Yeah, thank you.
So Satiristas is a interview book that he did with famous comedians on the topic of satire.
Oh,
so it's a great resource for my book.
Gotcha.
But in his intro chapter, he attempts to define it, but he makes this point, which is, if you get a group of comedians together and ask them to define satire, that's like asking jazz musicians to define what notes are. Like, it's just not that useful of a conversation.
Right.
Jazz cats are going to go on stage and, improvise their way around melodies. And
facts. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of even though I do attempt to give an academic definition for the word satire, I frame it as, for comedians, it's a question of limited interest. Because
absolutely right. Yeah.
Most satirists who are writers or comedians are not sitting at home trying to come up with a concrete definition and then write jokes that match that definition.
No, yeah, absolutely not. That would be a very. I see where the metaphor of talk to people about notes, when they're like, "Boy, you play notes. You don't talk about notes." Yeah, one comes after the other. That's all you can say about them.
I do think that to be satire, you have to have some kind of criticism.
Okay, and that's what I was thinking. It's comedy done with a point, or to make a point, or to make people see a point, right? Like kind of along those lines. Okay.
If we're just riffing on, and again, he's a hilarious comedian, so doesn't matter either way, which is Jim Gaffigan. We'll talk about being Catholic. Most of him talking about being Catholic, in my opinion, is not satire. It's just him being autobiographical.
Right.
So he might occasionally get a little critique, sneak a critique in there once in a while, but for the most part, it's just talking about his life and going for yuck. So, whereas the poster child for religious satire in the 2000s is Bill Maher.
Okay. I gotcha. That makes more sense. Okay, yeah, I see where that's lining up. Perfect. Those are great examples of those. I will try to cut in the edit one of both, so that we can see an example of Gaffigan and Mars, so we can see the difference between those two. I have experience with both of those comics. I'm not with them, but I've seen their stand-ups. I've seen their stand-ups, so I know what you're talking about, but I want to make sure our audience does too. So because Bill Maher, he's like, here's the jokes to point out some problems or some issues that you guys we should really be careful with, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he did a routine on his show once, which I use in the book as an example of the Mormons do posthumous baptisms.
Okay.
And they do them of whoever they want.
Huh.
So, just for example...
Wait, against their will? They force people into their heaven, essentially?
Yes,
if you're dead, you don't have a will.
Well,
I mean, they didn't consent at any point, and if the spirit is attached to the husk that they're dunking, then they would. I mean, if that worked, and again,
they're forcing them.
If the magic thinking came through,
And so they famously have attempted on numerous occasions to posthumously baptize Anne Frank.
Oh no!
And you just Google that. Mormons
Why?
attempt to because they wanted to go to Mormon heaven.
They wanted Mormon heaven.
Apparently, to save their soul.
Okay.
But there was this. This is also a headline you can look up.
Yeah, you literally have to
Mitt
type in the
Romney-
word Mormon and Anne, and the words Mormon Anne Frank baptism pop up as the top Google result.
Right. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, another example, almost as egregious, was that Mitt Romney's wife, who's a convert to Mormonism's father, was a scientist and an avowed atheist.
Ooh.
And the Mormons attempted to, they did the ritual where they posthumously baptize him.
Okay.
And so Bill Maher did a routine about that, and the culmination of his routine was that he does like his own spell to reverse the baptism.
So here then is history's first unbaptism ceremony right now. For the late Edward Davies. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in the presence of math, gravity, evolution, and electricity to honor Brother Edward and to send the powers of SEAL Team 666 to rescue him from planet Clolob so that he may spend eternity with the kind of freethinkers he chose to hang out with on Earth. So by the power granted to me by the Blair Witch, Schlemiel, Schlemazel, e pluribus mumbo jumbo, expecto patronum, sususudio, yo mama, I call upon the Mormon spirits to leave your body the fuck alone. Brother Edward, in this world you had to put up with Mitt Romney. You've suffered enough.
There you go. All right. I mean, if you can use magic thinking to do something, you can use magic thinking to undo it, right?
Right. And then, yeah.
Oh my God.
All right.
I'm sorry. I want to be a little bit more sensitive to people who, they do subscribe to their beliefs, and who they believe that has power, and in some ways, I've witnessed miracles. I'm not sure exactly what's happening there, but at the same time, I'm like, hoping for things and thinking very hard about them. It seems to have little impact on our world. So, okay, all right, I gotcha. So, gotcha. So, all right, we're saying the base terms.
I mean by satire.
Yes, yeah. And I get, yeah, exactly. So he's gone so far as he's like, oh, you want to play this game? Let me show you how silly it looks when you come from at it from the other side, right? Yeah. Or you might believe that he's unbaptized somebody. And you might have to dig him up and baptize him again, because of what Bill Maher is capable of doing. He's a very powerful shaman with his magic on stage. All right.
Yeah, Stephen Colbert at the same time did a posthumous circumcision ceremony. I can't remember who was.
I'm sorry.
oh no, for sure.
That's Steve. That's a good one. That wow. There is no foreskin because it's dust at this point, and so he's just doing a ritual that causes it to be the belief now.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay. And also serves no function to the person it's being done on, since generally circumcision is good for biological necessities, like more than anything else. Okay. Yeah. I mean, biological at the time that it was being done, not so much in the modern world. Wow, Stephen Colbert.
Yeah. Here's a Colbert quote: "Since Jews do not baptize, I will now proxy circumcise all the dead Mormons."
He did it to the Mormons.
Yes, and then he put a hot dog through a mini guillotine. By the power invested in me by renting Yentl, I hereby circumcise every dead Mormon.
How seriously is the Mormon Church taking that sort of thing?
I've never heard a reply.
Okay, I get you. It's interesting. Because they're kind of caught in a conundrum at that point, right? Because if they acknowledge that it's the case, now they've got to do something about this, and how do they reverse the circumcision? If they don't acknowledge it, or deny that he has any power, they might have to examine their own beliefs as to the posthumous baptizing. Okay, I gotcha. And the purpose of satire, right? Using humor and comedy to get you to think about things and examine your points of view.
In a critical way, though, like it's
right. In my
opinion, there has to be an element of criticism.
Not just satire. Fun to consider it. Yeah. So I got you. Yeah. But to take that critical eye on it. Okay, gotcha. So I think I'm with you as far as religious satire and how that. Sorry, let me try to, from the title of the book, try to digest the concept. So you're saying that religious satire is something that you're now using on New Atheism as an idea, or do those exist together?
Yeah, to me, it's the parallel between the two.
Okay.
That religious satirists,
okay,
in the decade after September 11th, use some of the same rhetorical devices and topics as New Atheists talk about.
Oh, okay, I got you. I'm with you.
Right. I'm not criticizing, not that they're above criticism,
right?
But not criticizing New Atheism, but showing how there's a similarity or a Venn diagram that overlaps
between this
religious satire and New Atheism.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. And you said not so much as it was in the 2000s. It's gotten less, but this New Atheism kind of more of like an aggressive form of it, right? Like we need to take a stance on this and really like have that. But they're making satire to the point to be like, hey, these thought processes, these religions, and so they're doing the same thing that the New Atheists were doing, was to kind of like to shake up that mold. Yeah. That's fair. Okay. And that's post 9/11. Okay, I gotcha. That's cool. There you unlocked a lot of big thoughts all at once, so they're all like swirling right now.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I have for you is actually about the current political climate that we see in America, where it seems like we have a very people seem to have gotten much more religious in a lot of ways in the last 20 years since 9/11, and at the same time we have seen a lot more people who are more commonly atheist, agnostic, questioning, more spiritual than they are religious. You see that to be true?
Well, it is definitely statistically true that in America there are more non-believers now, and that is shown through the Pew surveys. Because every 10 years or so, the Pew company will do surveys of attitudes about American life.
Right.
And what will happen is what's called the non-believer, so they don't use the word atheist, has gone up by a huge chunk. In some atheist circles, it's referred to as the fastest growing quote-unquote religion. Of course, it's not a religion.
Right, no.
But it's the fastest growing segment.
Well, you can say ideology, right?
It's a lack of belief system.
Well, I don't know if that's true. It's not a lack of beliefs, because people have to believe in something. But it's not a religious, a traditional religious belief, right? Is that the... Okay, and that is right. Yeah. I think I've heard numbers between 20 and 40%. Does that sound like ballparky? Obviously, as an academic, it's not precise enough, but is it more than that? Like less than that? In that area?
15 to
Okay, so
20.
Okay, so not as high as I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah, but it's 20 years ago, that number would have been like a low single digit, like 2 or 3%.
Right,
and on
right.
top of that, there's a kind of, to borrow a metaphor, a coming out of the closet issue, that there are people who are agnostic, apatheists like myself at one time,
right. Like
or even atheists, but they're afraid to tell their family members.
Gotcha. And they might still be actually in a church, but they don't believe. They're just going for community or culture, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yes, I've known it, you have as well, I'm sure. I knew a young lady in college who I would sometimes go to church with because we were friends, and she would only go to church to see her aunt. That was like the only time during the week she would see her aunt. And she loved her aunt, and she would go hang out with her cousins, you know.
Yeah,
and
no,
if there was ever like a reason that her wasn't around, she had no interest in going to church.
She didn't want to go.
Doesn't mean she was an atheist, but it just meant the only reason she was still going to church was to see her aunt.
Yeah, I have a number of friends now who are more in the camp that I am, where we feel like we're in touch with some spirit, whatever the spirit, the human spirit is, whatever the spirit that runs through all things, whatever life is, right? We're in touch with that, but not necessarily in a religious sense. But they enjoy going to churches for the structure of the services, or the people that they socialize with, or to have a community of people who are, in some places, generally good-hearted, or trying to be good, which is not always true with religion, but
true. But some people do feel that way, so definitely.
And so
they might not be non-believers, but they may just be, again, sort of interested in different things, and what that church community would profess as a dogma, but they still get value out of the community.
Yeah, I think Aaron was saying that he was going to church. I was trying to remember who it was who was talking to about this, but yeah, he was saying that he was going to church because it's one of the few places that you can have people who talk about philosophy and theology, where you can sit down and they'll have that conversation, in front of you or for you, and think these thoughts, right, Aaron? That's something along the lines. Yeah.
Like I really love philosophical talking. Like that's how we started becoming friends.
Yeah.
Like I love like talking in depth. And church is like, at least like, even if I don't agree with everything a preacher says, I can still like think about that topic, whereas I would just be doing nothing if I wasn't there. Like my brain would be like, I'd just be scrolling through TikTok or watching videos, and my brain would be numb. But I want my brain to be like alive and thinking.
Right.
So like I went to a church, and the pastor was saying like disparaging things about like Adam from Adam and Eve fame. And I was like,
are you gonna give his last name so we get the tea, bro?
I guess. Yeah, I guess that like there is a tree of knowledge of good and evil, and you got to know the evil, but also you got to know the good, and also with the beginning of the story, without that inciting incident, the plot doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, he leaves everybody in paradise, and maybe that's not as interesting, right? But Adam was searching for knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Or Eve was rather searching for knowledge and convinced Adam.
Even then, that's like a metaphor for a beginning, from my worldview.
Right.
I don't think the world is 6,000 years old or whatever they think.
You're done.
Yeah,
Aaron,
just based off based off of the measurements that we can take, and
because of dinosaurs.
Yeah, right. But so back to the question then, Jerry. So we have a rise of, atheist, agnostic, right? You say like that 15-20% is where it's at. But then also we're seeing like a very like I want to say militant, which is partially true, but it's not exactly the word I'm talking about. But like extremist religious people, or like I mean that which is. You're a little bit older than me. I don't remember it being like this in America as a young person. I remember people went to church and I knew that it changed the way that they voted and sometimes socialized. But like to the degree that I see that it's aggressive, people are aggressively Christian these days. I might be off base. Is that something that you discuss also? I mean, is that why religious satire exists?
Exactly. No, I think in fact. Well, first of all, I'm going to just.
That was a lot of questions.
Yeah. In terms of 2025 in America and the religiosity of America, the majority of Americans, even if we go by this questionable Pew statistic or amorphous, 15-20% approximately, give or take, whatever, still 70-80% of Americans are believers of some stripe.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're extremists or evangelical or militant. But believers of some stripe. Now, in that context, what I think we are seeing is two phenomenon, a traditional one and a contemporary one. The traditional phenomenon is gerrymandering.
Okay.
And gerrymandering goes back to the Constitution because that's what the Senate is. The Senate is a form of gerrymandering.
Can you define gerrymandering really quick? I think I have a grasp of the word, but I'm not quite positive that I do.
In modern politics, gerrymandering is when one political party draws a political map to its benefit.
Ah, yes. Okay, gotcha.
Thus getting more representation than their voters would, than their actual raw number of voters would suggest they should be getting.
Okay.
So the reason I call the Senate is the first form of American gerrymandering is because the southern states were afraid the northern states would immediately outlaw slavery.
Right.
Because they had the higher population. And so the compromise was that we'd have two houses in the legislature, the House of Representatives, which was based on population, and the Senate, which is based on each state getting the same number of votes. And that enabled, even though they were in the minority, the Southerners to maintain the legality of slavery in early America.
Gotcha.
And
okay, gotcha.
That is exactly in play today because whether it's southern states that have 1/10 the population of other states, or even southern states like Texas is certainly a Republican-leaning state, but they are by no means a monolithically Republican state. Austin is weird, yo, and Austin, Texas,
right?
Up into all kinds of weird shapes so that the Republicans get most of the House seats. And someone will say, usually one of my brothers, well, the Democrats do it too. That's fine.
Right.
No one is. But this relates to the question of why does religious militantism seem so prevalent?
Right.
Because they gerrymandered themselves into a disproportionate amount of control compared to the average American population.
That makes
non-believers
sense.
or even
votes.
more genteel believers. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think across America, and that's. Thank you for making that distinction. I don't think in the normal everyday people that I meet, I've met more religious extremists, but I feel like we've seen more religious extremists in politics, and that makes sense because they have more weight, they have more representation.
There's in Eastern Ohio a gerrymandered district. I haven't looked at it recently, and so it might have been re-gerrymandered. But I remember this being the case a few years ago. It takes a little tip of Kent, which is a college town, and then goes straight through Amish country, and then a little tip of like Youngstown, which is an urban environment, and it's like a religious district.
Right.
It has a college town and a union town on either end of it, but it's been drawn to empower the religious minority that lives there.
Gotcha. Of course. Gotcha.
As a Jerry, do you hate the fact that your name has been conscripted to gerrymandering?
Well, it's just phonetically, right? Or it's a homophone because it's spelled with a G, right?
Name,
yeah.
Yeah.
What if you made your own Jerry demands?
Well, I'm jerry rigging some right now.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so that's so. Do you feel like it is more extreme, or just the people who are that extreme are taking more direct action than they were?
I think, yeah. I'm gonna Sorry for being long-winded.
You okay? No,
what you get with these academics on your show.
Well, this is exactly why I wanted you on too. I was like, please give us everything you can, because we have the opportunity of you coming on. So, thank you for being long-winded.
The second, the gerrymandering, again, both literally and metaphorically, they have the religious extremists have a disproportionate amount of power in this country.
Right.
That makes them seem like they're everywhere.
Yes.
The contemporary thing in 2025, of course, is the internet. And
echo chambers, of course,
again,
that exist.
Yeah, echo chambers, yeah. So that I saw a great analogy, which was about conspiracy theories. We don't have to go there, but just the analogy was good. The analogy was, when I was a kid in the 80s, and I learned to play Dungeons and Dragons, if I wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, I had to find another kid in my school who played Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
If I lived in a small town, there might not be another kid in my school who played Dungeons and Dragons.
Facts.
So, same thing is if you were a little kid who believed in Bigfoot, and that's okay, you believed in Bigfoot. Of course, now what happens is you can go online and find people to play Dungeons and Dragons with, or people who believe in Bigfoot, the Bigfoot community, and you can find the extremist, militant, evangelical wings online as well.
Yeah, I gotcha. And so your people who would normally not have power or be shouted down by reason, by people around them, now can become more hardened because they have people who are supporting them, right? And hardened might not be exactly the right term, but they become more resolved in their opinions because people agree with them, right? Okay, I gotcha. I have found having conversations with people with extreme opinions has become more difficult, and I thought that maybe I was just becoming more stodgy, like I was just like, I don't have patience for this anymore. But no, that would make sense because they have their bros or sisters, their groups that they've been red pilling them or blue pilling them or whatever consistently every single day, bombarding them on their feed and in their Reddit in all the places. And then as the algorithms cue towards that, they begin to give them that information. So it seems like everybody believes what they believe.
And there are some there's some atheists on Instagram and Twitter that I follow. So I have my own echo chamber.
It happens.
But that echo chamber is not, by and large, either hateful nor voting. So
right. Yeah, that is the funny thing about atheists. Growing up religious, I was taught to believe that atheists were akin to the devil, essentially.
Right.
That they were the evil ones who were out to trick you. And the more atheists I met, the more that I found out they were like you've described, where they're just like, right? Like that's not a big topic of conversation for me,
no. In my daily life, I'm talking about religion, like my personal beliefs about religion, or the quote unquote problems with religion. It's because somebody else has started the conversation.
Right.
Like I don't kick in the door and go, now listen to me, all you dummies. I'm going to explain to you what's going on around here.
Yeah, let me give you some.
Here's why you're wrong.
Business.
Right.
Yes. And if 80% of Americans, as a round number, are believers of some kind, like my good friend Aaron, I'm not here to talk my friends out of the things that they enjoy. I'm not going to try to talk you out of playing Dungeons and Dragons either. You know?
Right? If
whatever.
You enjoy it. Yeah.
You be you.
Yeah.
Not with my energy.
Yeah, that's super funny, and that's more than what I found from I'd say quote unquote, but like because people throw it around as like this hateful term, but like people like atheists are generally more like like I don't care what you do, that's your business. Where it does seem like, and this is not all religious people, because there's a lot of people, there's a big spectrum, but the religious people that you run into often are trying to convince you, to come to their point of view, and so I think that they paint that on atheists to be like, oh no, they're going to try to proselytize you the same way that we try to proselytize everybody else.
I'll give you an example from my book, and
yes.
then I'll tell you a couple of funny things I observed. But here's an example of something that religious satirists in the 2000s were making jokes about, but also the new atheists like Hitchens and Dawkins were writing about, and that's the Creation Museum.
Ah, yes, the old Creation Museum.
So,
I can't remember the guy's name. Dave, Dan, Aaron. Do you remember who's responsible for the Creation Museum?
God.
is the last name.
Yeah, Ken Ham. Ken Ham, who looks like a Neanderthal. If you ever Google him, I'll pop him up on the screen because it's hilarious how like unevolved he looks. But okay, so yeah, the Creation Museum.
Yeah, so comedians like not just Bill Maher but others. Louis Black had a whole routine about it. Mark Maron, one of my favorite comics, has a whole routine about the Creation
Sure,
Museum.
Bill Hicks would have loved that.
Bill Hicks has a routine about creationism,
right?
Actually.
But he does. The Creation Museum, I think it would have just like blown his mind. Like he would have, he probably would have had a special about that as well, right? Anyway,
and basically every book about atheism from the new atheism era has a chapter about creationism and why it's not scientifically sound.
Right.
Oh, that's an example of like both parts of the Venn diagram overlapping. Both of those, groups of people were talking about the same topic. So I went down, when I started writing this book, I said to myself, I need to be a responsible academic. I'm going to go to the Creation Museum.
Oh my God.
Which is
Did you go?
It's in the greater Cincinnati area, but it's over the Kentucky border. So you can usually say it's in Kentucky, but it is also in Cincinnati, basically, culturally speaking.
Okay.
And so I went down there.
Did you get on Noah's Ark?
And I took field notes. And so the Noah's Ark exhibit wasn't open yet when I went down there.
Oh no, okay, gotcha. That's like people's favorite exhibit. Yeah.
Yes. They do have, at the time, they did have like a room that was dedicated to Noah's Ark that you could kind of walk through, but they have since built like the Noah's Ark exhibit.
Okay, gotcha.
And the Noah's Ark exhibit, the big exhibit, the one you're talking about, I believe, was the year after it opened, horribly damaged. Millions of dollars worth of damage from rain.
Because God has a sense of humor and he loves irony. Or they love irony.
Yeah. Their insurance company was like, act of God. But,
right.
So they had to sue their insurance company to get money for the damages done.
Wait, did they claim that it wasn't an act of God? How could Ken Ham claim that wasn't an act of God? Oh man! So in their hearts, you wonder how much they actually do believe, if it's something like that. What were your thoughts on the Creation Museum when you were down there, or over there rather?
Well, there were a number of things which for myself, I talk about this. For my own reactions, I talk about this in my one-person show. In the book, I just wanted to make sure I was accurately depicting, like in a relatively objective way, what was going on at the museum. I mean, the museum is, first of all, people at home who only hear my voice don't see me putting air quotes around the word museum.
Yeah, well, I was trying to lean into that too, and I realized I wasn't able to either. Yeah.
Say that properly without just saying it.
Because a museum is a collection of artifacts and data and stuff like that. So to have one that isn't grounded in anything except for some people's imaginations is hard to call it that. I guess there are art museums, so you could have that. There are exhibits that exist there. They came from someone's imagination. Sorry, please continue.
Collection of things to observe. Like a kind of the most general use of the word museum.
Yeah, if you want to broaden the definition, a museum to that. Sounds good.
Say, posture as if they were a science museum.
Yeah, they sure
and
do.
We would like there to be, science in the science museum.
Yeah, if you're gonna.
And so there's just so many things that are not science, and again, they'll say, "Oh, come on and debate me," or I'm not here to debate creationists. I can just give you examples of things in this podcast that were non-scientific, that are patently not open to interpretation.
Right. There's no debate, in fact, right? Maybe some interpretation of how we apply those facts, but give us some examples.
They bring up a theory that was suggested a couple hundred years ago by some geologists from that period. Again, this is a couple hundred years ago. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Could we estimate the age of the Earth based on the amount of salt in the ocean?
What?
Right. Well, this was a question that was asked a couple hundred years ago. So using this method of salination dating, you can make an argument that the Earth is only a few thousand years old because of the. But
based on what? Okay. Sorry.
Based on the current amount of salt in the ocean.
Okay, because we see the ocean getting saltier. Is that kind of the concept?
Well, here's
I'm
the
not
thing.
saying it's factual, but I just what even is the reasoning on that? Because I guess I assumed that the ocean had a kind of like the salinity was constant. Maybe it goes up. Yeah, like yeah.
Well, the geologists from a couple hundred years ago that proposed this idea, they themselves proved you couldn't judge the age of the Earth by the level of salination in the oceans due to churn.
Okay.
And yet, the Creation quote-unquote museum has a display about these two men and how they proposed using salination.
But they don't go through the experiment, and they don't go through the disproof, obviously. Right. So they cherry pick just the proposition that there could be a possibility, and they have no scientific data to back it up as a science museum. All right, wow, that's
what they're trying to do at that establishment.
That's a better term. I like where you're going with that.
Is to give high school students things to irritate their high school science teachers about.
Yeah, fair.
Because if a average young adult who just went to this place and innocent young minds had said, "Hey, Mr. Jaffe, what about the salination of the oceans? How about that, huh?" What average high school science teacher is going to know any of this? So they're going to be stuck there going, "Oh, well, Billy, I don't know about that." And now they've just
and then also
their teacher.
That's not related to how we're talking about cell structure today. Why don't you? Yeah, right. Like, there's no reason to be interrupting the class to be doing that. It's not in the notes. Yeah. And so the kid or whoever it is thinks they've won the conversation when in fact
won a point.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. Yes. Which is that's kind of the thing with religion for me is that like. If I can just like stump you, then I've won. It's not on me to provide evidence or proof. Because we have faith, to fill in that gap. Why would we need to?
I think that the Creation Museum is kind of like that spaghetti on the wall. They just throw a bunch of nonsense at the people attending, so they can throw a bunch of nonsense at you next time they talk to you about creationism.
You're hitting on why it has been so frustrating to have conversations, because I'm like, wait, that doesn't even make any sense. That does not even connect it to the previous thoughts you had. Like, how is that? I mean, are you hearing anything that we're conversing about? Yeah, okay, gotcha. All right, yeah. Gotcha, okay.
There was this display that suggested, I will say in a way that maybe was meant to appeal to children. Of course, the whole thing is kind of geared for younger minds.
It is, right.
But they gear to children, and you can buy books on this subject in their bookstore, because every museum is really about the bookstore.
Yeah, I mean, that's where your money's going to come from.
It's all about merch.
Yeah, not the gift shop.
All about the merch.
Yeah.
At the gift shop, they have merch that explains the idea that medieval tales of knights fighting dragons are proof that men and dinosaurs lived together on the Earth.
I have heard that argument before. Being raised in the church, that obviously they're together because there were depictions of people and these great lizards of sorts, which is the same story of the dinosaur, right? Yeah.
Yes. Don't worry, I mocked this idea in my one-person show, but
okay, good.
This is like literally the kind of stuff you see in the museum.
But they won't include fairies in that, or leprechauns, or genies. If you're gonna do it, like, go for it.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Yep.
Like give us Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
The religion.
Game of Thrones or something.
Give us something interesting.
Game of Thrones as a documentary.
Yeah, actually, you didn't know that, did you? But you know what? If this continues the way that it does in, what's the year now? 2025, so 2625, they're gonna be like, we have documented evidence of dragons in history,
Yes.
and they're gonna show it at the museum, the Creation Museum, to be like, here it is, behold, the mother of dragons.
Well, they'll be able to show Robin Williams and Aladdin to prove that genies are real too.
Right. I mean, if they're going to, I really hope that they do. I hope that all of our sci-fi and fantasy is uncovered and treated as historical documents in the same way.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, the museum is ostensibly, Ken Ham and his group, Answers in Genesis, is ostensibly a biblical literalist organization. And part of what I think is hilarious to me is that if you're going to be like literal, I mean like really literal minded, there is nothing about dinosaurs in the Bible.
Yeah, I mean they definitely stretch when they try to say like Job says Leviathan, they're like, oh, that don't mean no whale, that's talking about a Paleosaurus, or whatever, and you really have to stretch. A unicorn.
Yes. All animals, but still, yeah. But that's not being literal.
No, it's not. It definitely
isn't. As you may know, and as I bet Aaron knows, and I don't have the chapter and verse, but you can Google it in 5 seconds. There's a formula for pi in King somewhere, like the geometry shape pi. Concept. Pi is 3 according to the Old Testament.
Uh-oh.
I mean, that's pretty close for.
No, it is not. Stop. It's not.
Almost.
You can't. No.
That's almost pi.
But you see, the thing with Aaron, I'm going to slightly 51% go with Aaron, only in the sense that if you want to say it's pretty close and not bad for thousands of years ago, even though the Romans were building roads, and the Egyptians were building pyramids, and they had to know that.
And they figured out the circumference of a circle. And why pi is necessary. Because you talk.
What is funny to me about this is only when discussing biblical literalists. Because if you're a biblical literalist, you are obliged to believe that pi is 3. However, biblical literalists will explain to you how to interpret it to make it more accurate. Now, I don't even know if their interpretations might have some historical merit. I doubt it, but let's pretend that they do. Let's give them every benefit of the doubt. Why are they interpreting this part of the Bible, but not interpreting the other parts they want to be literal about? Either way, they're not being very good biblical literalists.
Which it's a tough. If you're working with a book that is definitely meant to be metaphor and you're trying to take it literally, you're gonna run into some problems.
You dug yourself into a corner already.
Which a corner that I don't understand why people want to die on that hill, because I've read the Bible multiple times, cover to cover, and lots of great wisdom in it. Just from the human experience, right? Like there's a man who's experiencing the world and writing about the world, or men and women, who are contributing to this book, right? And so from that, like they're taking their observations that we can be like, in my opinion, right? Like the stuff that we observe today, the things that we experience today as humans hasn't changed all that much. And so for looking at an ancient book of human observations, I think it was really, really useful. But like to be like, that's, literally how things happen, and this isn't a collection of legends to inspire, is or to understand, to like get a metaphor of what's going on. That's a tough one.
Yes.
I looked up the reference that you're talking about. I'd never seen that as an interpretation of pi, but I see how that exactly how it should be. If you were building a house using cubits, which like the measurement from your tip to your elbow, that's going to get you close enough. You're not trying to probably do pi at that point, but jeez.
If you build something with cubits, it's going to take a lot of talents to buy.
What kind of institution attempting to prove biblical literalism builds what they consider to be 2-scale boat that can in no way float. These are the worst biblical literalists I've ever seen.
Right? It can, right? And takes water damage. Jesus, Jerry, I just looked at the time, and we only have a few more minutes left of this show. And it just flew right by because this topic is super fascinating. We're about,
isn't it?
Yeah, about 20 minutes or so left in the show. So I want to keep diving into all these thoughts and keep exploring them more because there's so much more. I definitely feel like we should have you back to continue to talk about this. I think that you really love coming and hanging out if you're able to talk to Jack in one of these evenings. So this is kind of where we like go to like kind of like your conclusion or like wrap up thoughts on this topic, and we barely scratched the subject, so this is not even fair to the topic that we've opened up. This is I'm sure you said you have a 75-minute show, right? This is the content of, and that's really well honed material. I don't think we could discuss it. It'd probably take a couple of hours. So for you, I guess, what is the response? I mean, you said more ambivalent to people's beliefs and that sort of thing. But obviously there's a point to satire, right? There's a point to critique.
Right. So I have I, as a lecturer, have gone to like museums and groups and done lectures related to this, and also academic conferences. So I've been lecturing on this topic for 10 years.
Oh, cool. Okay, gotcha. That's awesome.
And
it shows.
Someone will. Oh, thank you. You're very kind, Skip.
No,
Aaron,
call it
the church is still out on him. We'll get back to him later. But the something that will often come up is the expression "preaching to the choir," and I actually, because I've heard that like kind of thrown to me as a challenge. Isn't all this religious satire just preaching to the choir? I'd like a couple of points about that as a way that might pull some of it together, to grope towards the conclusion.
I like where you're going with this. Okay, this is really okay. Please continue.
Okay, so first of all, I don't see anything wrong with preaching to a choir. Churches have been doing it for centuries. It works for them.
I mean, it's the metaphor that they're using.
Yes, it's
like
the literal metaphor.
Yeah, the literal metaphor they're using.
What is wrong with going to see a comedian like Lewis Black or Jerry Jaffe that you like to do some religious satire and laugh along? Like, but can't we have our own community and communitas and laughter and time to come together and joy?
Right. Let's not do it at 10 a.m. Yeah. Maybe we can do it at like 8 p.m. instead. And let's not have communion wine and wafers. Maybe burgers and beer. I mean, that could be ours. Sacrament.
And that, as in all things, can't optional.
Right.
So I feel like there is this sense of there's this like fake critique of religious satire that it's preaching to the choir. I don't think religious satire or satire in general can really like correct societal ills.
Right, you're never going to change somebody's mind by talking, right?
Right. If making jokes about Donald Trump was going to solve Donald Trump, he wouldn't have been reelected.
Right. Because lots of people have been able to do it for a long period of time, and it hasn't seemed to stop him one bit. It just seems to be egging him on, to be honest.
Yeah. And his most diehard supporters too, to which I wish them well in all their future endeavors, other than destroying our country.
Yeah, please, just do something that's not destroying our country. Go plant a garden that you can kill or something. I don't know. Again, sorry to interrupt. Please.
But so the efficacy of satire, but it's not in social change.
Right. Okay.
It is in first and foremost, and really. I do believe this, and I know the comedians I've interviewed and read about as well. It's making people laugh. It is that there is something, at times, ridiculous about some of the claims found in religious dogma, and let's laugh about it.
Right.
And that is its own value, just like any other joke that you might tell.
I think that I completely agree with you on that. Yeah.
It's quite
so
okay. Go ahead, you go first.
Well, quite possibly that there it might be, because so there we have a rising group of atheists in America. We have some more extreme groups who are being religious, but I think that there's a large middle section, and probably 60-75% of a large middle section that doesn't lean too far left or one way or the other. So I think that for that group right there, whether they're leaning more towards a religious side or they're leaning more towards an atheistic side, that group being able to not take it so seriously, either atheism or religion allows us to have healthy conversations with each other because it's not in a hostile environment. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, that would be one way to think about it.
Okay, so you didn't say that, but okay, gotcha.
It should be possible. It should be possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, the thing I'm going to take what you said and just translate it even more directly to the comedy club setting.
Cool.
I reject the notion that telling a political or religious joke splits the room.
Yeah.
That is something that is often said.
Really?
As if, you can't, if you make a joke about Biden, half the audience is going to hate you. If you make a joke about Trump, half the audience is going to hate you. If you make a joke about God, half the audience is going to hate you.
I don't think that's
do not
true.
accept that.
Yeah, there might be one or two people who need to pull their sticks out their butt. But I think probably everyone else is at least going to have a chuckle, right?
Yes, and I mean, most of the people at a comedy show know they're at a comedy show.
They didn't get kidnapped.
Most of the people at a comedy show are not dogmatic about their beliefs. Some are, but most are not.
Right.
And then I'll just say one last thing. It's important for the comedian to, as a gesture of goodwill, be funny. Right? Like if you have a Trump joke or a Biden joke or a religious satirical joke, you want it to be funny. And I think
which is more important than the point, right? Because you're a comic, your goal, your objective is to make people laugh. Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Yes. And so, I mean, I had a very a low-level Trump joke, and I would call it a C+ or B-, and it's not even worth going into. But I just decided it wasn't funny enough to keep telling. I wasn't concerned about I'm afraid to attack Trump.
Right.
It's not about attacking Trump. I have to have something funny to say about Trump, or else it's not worth bringing to the stage.
That, as a professional comedian, I respect that of you. Yeah, you're if this isn't it might be making a statement, but now you're just you may as well be bandstanding, right? Standing up there just on a soapbox preaching, right? That's not what anybody is there for.
I do call my one-person show a one-person show, and I've done it in a few theaters, and I've booked it myself a few times. And it's in my own advertising, I call it half stand-up comedy, half TED Talk, all hilarious.
Okay, fair. Okay, I got you.
I do configure it as I'm going to talk a little bit about religion, and you might accidentally learn some things along the way.
Accidentally,
but it's still meant as more or less still meant to be funny. If people aren't laughing during the course of this, and that bit's got to go, and a new joke has to be written.
100%, right? Yeah, if the material is not working at your average audience, then you need to get it. And then again, you said you have this Trump joke that it was working, but just wasn't working good enough up to your standard.
Correct.
So correct that too. Okay, that's fair. Okay.
It wasn't worth the aggravation. If someone complained. I told this dumb joke once to a room full, a standing room only, maybe a small show, maybe 100 people in a small hall.
Right on.
And I was having a good set, and I was like, I'll get this Trump joke out of the way. And it got a chuckle. One person at the back of the room started heckling me. And even his friends made him leave. His friends took him outside because he was drunk. So one drunk. So my thought was, I did not get a big enough laugh to allow my show to get diverted by one drunk.
There you go. Right? Yeah, I see. Because you wouldn't have if you got a big laugh, you'd have the whole audience on your side, and the one guy wouldn't feel like heckling because he's obviously, but because it was a low response, he felt like he had the power now to step up and try to make his comments known, right?
I do want to mention while I have the time.
Yeah.
My podcast is called The Comical Heathen.
Nice.
I started this podcast a few years ago when I started working on this book in earnest, and its main purpose is to interview comedians about satire. And if you or anyone listening to this wants to go check it out, I will just say the most famous person I was able to interview was Lewis Black.
That's awesome.
So I would say go look up the Lewis Black episode, and
we will link that in the comments below. So if you guys are looking for that, that interview, it's going to be right below. You can check that out.
Arigato.
Yeah.
And so I asked him if doing satire was different in the age of Trump, and he said absolutely. He said you've got to. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said you've got a narrower alley, you've got a thread. And and I'm paraphrasing, but what I got from his answer in this part of the discussion was, you just don't want to mention his name and trigger people. You got to get them on your side by how you configure a topic, how you set it up, how you creep into the topic.
Nice. Yeah, so a thinner alley to maneuver down. Right, because on one, you could either, depending on what you say, you could either trigger one side or the other. People who are afraid or people who are angry. And that's not what comedy is for. That's not why anybody has showed up there. No one's there to start a revolution. Right. Nobody's there so that they're there to escape their fear of the modern day that they're dealing with. Yeah, okay, I gotcha. But because there is so much extreme feelings about it, you have to be a little bit more careful to hit that joke center. That's an awesome concept. Okay.
And the book, the nice thing about this book, for what it's worth, is when it first came out last year, it came out in 2024, the hardcover was pricey, over $50. But they just released the paperback version. So you can get the paperback or the e-version right through Amazon or through BarnesandNoble.com for $12 to $15.
There you go.
So now it's something it was the most ridiculous merch in the history of comedy. Me pulling out this $50 hardcover book. Hey, if you like my show, I like $50 book cash only.
Yeah, right. Less than more than you spent on drinks tonight for your whole table. Yeah, 100%. And everyone, if you want to, we'll link that down below so you can find the book that we've been talking about tonight, Religious Satire in the Age of New Atheism in the post 9/11 world. That was a terrible summation of your book title.
It's close though. Probably better.
With all of those concepts.
Word salad. It's totally a word salad.
It is, yeah. That's why I was like, man, I'm gonna let you do this at the beginning. So the Comical Heathen, is that where you want people to be checking you out if they are checking you out? Is there a .com for that, or is there a streaming platform that they check? Cool.
Well, we have a website for the podcast that has a free archive of all the all the past episodes. And the podcast is free anyway. So at any podcasting platform, including iTunes, you can get my podcast for free. So
that is awesome. And guys, go check that out there. Jerry, thank you so much for being on and talking about this. Like I said, I definitely want you to come back and have more conversation with this, because we haven't even scratched the surface of this topic.
I love it.
But sorry, Aaron, your thoughts?
Oh, depth. I love this.
This is the depth. I think this stuff that you were going to church for, so that you can talk about philosophy and theology just from the different perspectives. But we do have to wrap up this show tonight. So again, thank you. Check out the Comical Heathen. You can check that out. We're going to be linking that below. If you want to find out more about what we do here, Aaron and I are working on Cox in Space. So you can check it out, coxinspace.com, coxinspace.com. And then if you want to find Aaron Cosbeil, the professor of comedy, you can check him out at professorofcomedy.com. You can book him there, find out where his show dates are, and all that sort of stuff. I believe that Fleming was in the audience, although he is not anymore, but you can always check him out, soundcloud.com/Flamingo Music. So check out all of those things. And Jerry, again, thank you so much. We're going to sign off tonight. But guys, thank you for listening to us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.